Welcome to Growing Your Team, a podcast designed for small business owners seeking to grow their company with the help of employees and contractors. Your time is limited, which means growing and leveraging teams is essential for business success. The Growing Your Team podcast is the place to learn tips and techniques designed to help you know when it's the right time to hire, how to select perfect fit team members, and how to maximize productivity while creating a positive work environment. Drawing from her 10-plus years of leadership and hiring experience, here is your host, Jamie Van Kuyk.
Hello, Jamie Van Kuyk here, and welcome back to the Growing Your Team podcast. Today, I have on guest Caroline Wilson. Caroline is the owner and principal consultant at Vireo Research, as well as the founder and owner at Hoodie Chew Chew. Vireo Research is a research and strategy consultant firm that works with marketers, innovators, and entrepreneurs to make better, faster, and more innovative decisions using customer research and data. And Hoodie Chew Chew is the only chewable teether that attaches to your hoodie string for moms, dads, and babies, as well as big kids who chew for sensory needs. In today's conversation, Caroline joins me to get real and honest about growing a team within her business and even having to reduce that team when the time was right. So let's jump in and talk about how she manages the team and what's on the horizon for her two businesses as she grows them to success.
Hello, Caroline. Thank you so much for joining us on the Growing Your Team podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Can you start us off with telling us about yourself?
Yeah, of course. I run two businesses. I have a business called Vireo Research, and we are research and data strategists. So we work typically with medium to large companies, I would say for the most part, with the odd nonprofit entrepreneur thrown in there. And for that work, it's your, research consulting. So taking through people, what's your business challenge? What is it you need to make a decision about? And then I go out and come up with methodologies that let companies find that data. So that data might come from a really large survey with a luxury consumer, for example. Or it could be a small workshop and strategy session with a small group of donors at a local nonprofit. So that business has been around since 2009. It's weird to think that I started it during the last recession. So it's sort of like, oh, we were coming full circle. We'll see how this one rides out. Handily for my business and for the research business anyway, when people have to make decisions, they become more weighted when budgets are tighter. And so research, it changes, but it tends to kind of carry on. And then the other business that I have is a kids product business, kids and parents, and it is Hoodie Chew Chew. And Hoodie Chew Chew it's a simple little teether that goes on your hoodie string. So if you were a mom like me who sat around, and I know your listeners can't see this, but I'm showing it to you so you can see what it looks like. So it's just a simple little teether that if you're a mom like me that you sat around in leggings and you wanted something on your hip. My kid just chewed on my hoodie string all the time. And I was like, maybe this is an idea that I could play with. And as I went on to develop that idea, I realized that there's, so kids on the spectrum, kids with ADHD, they chew a lot for sensory needs. And so I have two target audiences. I have parents with babies and also who want to hang out and have that baby bonding time for moms and dads, and then also kids who concentrate or chew to concentrate, chew to focus, that group.
Right. So those are two very different businesses. How do you manage it all?
Yeah, I would say right now, like barely, like it's, and that's really, I guess what started the conversation with you and how we met initially was again, with research, like I I've been doing that for so long now on my own. And then before that with working for different agencies and larger companies. So that's all, I just kind of know what to do, right? Like when someone talks about something, a challenge, or I'm like, oh, that's kind of like this other time, right? And you just know, right? After 20 years, it's kind of second nature. And also I'm more also kind of relating to your area. I understand the tasks, like the clarity around what I need to do when someone's describing a situation to me is just, it's obvious.
Right.
And so with Hoodie Chew Chew, a product business, it's been hard for me to start to outsource stuff because I don't even understand the task myself. Like, what am I understand at a high level what the strategy is, but drilling that down into like a job description or a task, like that's been the big challenge for me, really over the past year. So it's Hoodie Chew Chew's been around for a year, like last July. So a year and a couple of months.
Yeah. So you're still figuring it all out, and, understanding that there's some areas that you're great at and other things that you're not so great at in your business.
Right. And that can be something that's hard to live, like for my personality anyway. I'm not like great at not being good at stuff, right? Like I don't like that feeling sits with me in a really uncomfortable way. And I wish I'm learning to get to be okay with that, right? I think that and understanding that it's, it's not a personality flaw because you don't know how to do something. And I think that really the past year and a bit with Hoodie Chew Chew, and I mean, it's been 2 years and kind of the product being developed and stuff, there's things I've realized like, oh, I am really good at this. And then there's other jobs that I've untangled the task and figured out what it is. I'm like, oh no, I'm never going to be good at that. That's going off to someone else. And so as those things become more and more obvious, I'm starting to have this job description come into my head now, or on paper, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point that you bring up, is like, there's things that we're not good at, but we also have this struggle because we're not good at it. And especially a lot of people that are starting businesses, we're high achievers by nature. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't go through the rigmarole of starting a business and everything that goes into it. So there's always that constant struggle of, why can't I just do this myself? Why don't I have the knowledge to do it myself? I'll just learn how to do it. And having to then step back and say, no, there's some things that are just not worth my time to learn and perfect. I need to hire the expert to do it.
Yes, for sure. And what I will say, as you're able to compartmentalize tasks and understand where they fit in a larger picture, it does make that easier. Like, I think, this time last year, I was about to go into, unbeknownst to myself at the time, about 2 months of like an Amazon hellscape. It was so awful. And a lot of it was my own like naivety around what's involved in launching a product on Amazon.
Right.
It's not easy if anyone's thinking about doing it. I'm not saying don't do it, but I needed to get professional, like technical help. Right from the beginning. And I rolled with that too long. Like, I thought I'd kind of set it up and then it wasn't working. And then because I didn't understand it, I didn't know what to do. And Amazon is not easy to talk to. It doesn't even getting technical help was someone like, oh, hey, here, this is where you go in this buried 8 pages deep, this tiny font. If you click on that, you'll be able to get someone to call you. I'm like, that would be so awesome to just have a button that said, hey, you could call me.
Right.
But right, I'm what do I know? I'm not Jeff Bezos, right? But obviously. But anyway, yeah, and that I feel like that experience, although was really bad at the time, I learned a lot from it. And there's no way if something like that were to happen now, I would spend 6 to 8 weeks trying to unravel it. I just wouldn't and I even if it was a financial issue, I wouldn't operate in the same way.
Right. And some of it you have to think about is you can either spend your time or you can spend your money. And when you spend your time, you're not earning money during that because you could be doing other things to generate revenue.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm so aware of that now. Even with, like a product business, sure, some products make money right out the gate, and I think those are the products that we hear about, right? Because everyone likes those like overnight success stories. And that's not the reality for most people starting any business, but a product business in particular, because you have a lot of costs that, the setup costs and the marketing and your branding and all those things, it takes time to pay off all that, right? And to recoup those costs. And so even though you have sales, which you can be, yes, sales are validating and they're great, but it's more complicated than that, right? And then, you've got different margins on one side, different margins on this other channel. And so really getting a sense of that. And, even when you're like, but if I don't spend this, then I'll make this, to your point, there's that idea that you're saving money, or it feels like you're being efficient, or I should know this, right? Like if I want to run this business, I need to know this. It's like, no, you don't.
Right. As I like to tell people a lot of times, it's like, you need to know like the overview, know what you expect, know what it means to do something right. You don't need to get down and dirty into the details of knowing how to do it yourself with everything in your business.
Right. That's a really good point. And so what resonated with me with what you just said was you need to know what to expect. So that's been a big learning for me is, in terms of my process of thinking about stuff, is getting clarity in my own head of what my expectation at the end is. And that helps me drill down and explain a task or a role or even sometimes I can be talking about a Facebook post or a blog post. If I want to outsource something like that, having clarity in your own head around the expectation and then explaining that to someone else is a really good process for teasing out any of the, I guess, like miscommunications that can happen, when you're passing a job on, if you will.
Right. Yeah. You always have to know what you want. You can't just say, do this. You have to be very clear about, okay, what does it mean to do it right? But then also understand that you might not explain things right the first time. So going back and resetting expectations and talking about, okay, I know I said this, you did that, but what I actually meant was this.
Yes, right. And I think that can sometimes, again, that's the complexity of starting to outsource things, right? Is realizing that you have to build in time for that. So because, you think, okay, right, well, all of this stuff, I need all of this social media scheduled and it needs to be scheduled by, the first of the month. Well, that means you need to start thinking about that a good few weeks before. A week isn't enough, and probably 2 or 3 weeks isn't enough, because again, for me, because I'm switching between these small marketing tactics of Hoodie Chew Chew to broad, big picture strategy work based on data. that are, like that's a 60-hour job over 2 weeks. So balancing my own time to provide feedback to someone, like if I only have a week and that week someone shifts a report or something, my week is dedicated to that report. Like my clients, it's very difficult to get a client to wait 2 or 3 weeks for a report. And I'd love that, but there's a standard in the industry that really sits between 1 and 2 weeks. And so if that happens where my time is dedicated to this one task, and I'm the blockage because someone's waiting for feedback, like just knowing how much time I have to build into just getting that description and building time for me to understand that, like, I may have told them something I shouldn't have told them, or like, oh, you misunderstood that, or, oh, that's not exactly the picture I meant, these small details that they build up, right?
Right. Yeah, no, they definitely do. Yeah. So it's those things that sometimes you don't realize what you need to tell somebody until what they provide isn't right. And then it's like, then you realize, oh, not everybody thinks the same way I do. You're not in my head.
That's right.
Yeah. So I have a question going back to, okay, you had this one business that was really involved around research. You started the second business. Yeah. It was product based. Yeah. But in order to really develop that product, I'm sure you had to do a lot of research in order to figure out what should this be made of? How should you market it? Like everything, like to make it sure that it was hitting your target market right. Mm-hmm. Did you ever find that you were in a spot where you were just in that continual of, I have more research to do, and it was holding you back on actually getting your product out?
So it's funny you say that, because I was very conscious that I could get stuck in that cycle.
Yeah.
Because even now I'm able to kind of look back and go, oh, I could have done it this way, or I should have, that would have been an interesting question to ask, or, and as the business, to be fair, like as the business builds out, like once you have research it's sort of easier to find opportunities for research once a business is rolling. So now that it's rolling, I'm kind of excited about being my own client in those ways. Cause I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to post a survey here. And like, oh, I think this question would be really cool to ask. So I'm like, and there's sort of this crossover part of me now where I'm like, oh, I have this really unique view now because of my kind of career and consulting background combined with now applying it to this small product. Right. But back to your question, I deliberately pushed myself because I didn't want to be sitting around on the idea for like 3 years. I wanted it out. And right. So I did what I would consider, the standard research processes, in that I ran a quantitative survey to get some numbers so that I could have purchase intent and some big numbers around some of them that I wanted to use for marketing. Admittedly, like I live in hoodies all the time, those kind of, like I have a sense of, like, if I didn't laugh about my kids, I'd cry, like those kind of things. Right? I was like 98% of parents agree. And then I moved that into qualitative focus groups. So I had also done a lot of like what most people would spend time on, which is secondary research. So looking at different products in the market. And I just wanted to position ours uniquely for obvious reasons, but also some personal reasons around the brand that I wanted to build. Because I think that, I mean, I have blog posts in the work about like how it's like Instagram is ruining your kid's playroom. Like everything is like so like perfectly curated, and like right. We've all got that like stupid grim rainbow. Like I have one too. So I'm like not, I'm mocking, like it's beautiful, right? But my kids touch it and I'm like, put it back. Like, don't stand on it. You're going to snap it. It's like, it's mommy's toy. It's not really, but I think there's a lot of toys like that in homes now. And anyway, I imagined like a more fun brand, a more dad friendly brand as well, to be honest. Like I think there's a lot of inherent sexism around kids products, and if it's not targeted to a kid, it's targeted to the mom. And
Right.
while I know the numbers, like I accept that, like moms make more purchases for their families, whatever, but like that's inherently sexist. So like I guess there was a part of me that wanted to, again, personality wise, like I knew what I wanted the brand to look like based on what everyone else's brands look like. Like this is not a neutral brand. This is a brightly colored, kind of not. I still struggle with the word because maybe rebellious isn't exactly the word I mean, but I just didn't want it to look like all those kind of thoughtful Instagram brands that I love those too. No disrespect, but oh, hello. So I was kind of, I balanced that. And so, you know, I had this is what it should look like based on what everyone else is doing. These are my quantitative numbers. These are the qualitative feelings that people have about the product. You know, I had people describe how they would gift it. Like I have that understanding, right? And then I was like, I gotta go, because the thing that made me most nervous was that in 2 years, silicone products are very popular. Chewing products are very popular. There are a million teethers. I'm unique and sales are good. So, you know, I feel like things are validated. But I gotta go. I have to go fast. Right.
Right.
So I was worried that I would all of a sudden see my like little product idea up with a bigger brand. And I was just like, yeah, I can't compete with that budget, right? Or the distribution that those people already have.
Yeah. And I think it's just talking about the product for like a few minutes. It's such a great idea in a way, because the fact like you're talking about it, most of the stuff out there is geared towards moms. Like I know when my kids were little, it was like the teething necklaces. Well, my husband's not going to go put on a teething necklace. Like he's never going to do that. Yeah. But now, of course, we live in Florida, so my husband is almost never in a hoodie unless we're traveling up north. But I could totally see that as something that I could have got him. And like, you're not going to wear a teething necklace. Like here, you know, wear this, and it totally would have worked, especially because he was and still is like such an evolved parent. And I know like I had myself on mute for a little bit there. So what you guys can't see is my little one just came home from preschool because my husband went to go pick her up and popped in to say hello real quick as I'm in the middle of recording because that's life. But yeah, so like there's so many dads now that are so involved, and to have a product that allows them to have that same connection and everything with the child that products have been around for now years for moms to do. So it's great.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. And that was one of the, you know, when you start thinking about your business, like whatever business it is, like whatever that idea is, whether it's a product or, you know, your service or whatever, like, you know what it's like when you start to think like, could I do this? Like, yeah, of course I could. Like, I have the skills to do this. And then you start thinking about what you like about it. And like, from a technical or like marketing standpoint, that's your positioning, right? And so for me, I was like, where does this go? And it was a friend who said, I feel like this could be really big with dads. So I'm like, oh yeah. And I should give her a shout out, Heather Burns, 2 and 10. And she's, I am lucky that I will say that actually, and that kind of speaks to scaling your team is, having a sort of informal advisory board is a really great way to get those early stage ideas off the ground. And like I feel lucky, like I have a lot of smart friends and a lot of them work in the marketing space. So I was able to get that. I felt like I had a team, a loose team, but I had people that I could ask a question to, or what do you think about this? And that was kind of those were the very first, team members, if you will, that Hoodie Chew Chew had, right? It was just having that strong advisory people. And yeah.
Yeah. And that's such a great way to look at it is before you needed to actually go and hire someone, you still had a need with your company that needed to be addressed with other people. So you found a way to get the support, get the other opinions and everything that you needed without having to go and hire a team yet, because that's not the type of people that you needed. So it's just those different ways to look at growing a team. Like, who do you need in your court that's going to help you?
Right. And that's it, because like, who do you hire to ask like a random marketing question to? Like, you don't, right? I mean, of course you can, but like, it's not practical, right? Like, what do? You go on Upwork and be like, I have a question. Like, it's not, it's more free flowing than that. Right. And even just having a conversation with someone like yourself, you sometimes don't even know, and even really, like, I kind of know this from research consulting as well. Like, sometimes having a conversation with someone can be as illuminating, or at least partially as illuminating, as running, designing the questionnaire or running the survey, right? Because you're isolating, having another person, you kind of isolate the question. Because sometimes you're like, I don't even know what I'm asking. Like, but I have this feeling, and I was thinking I was going with these colors, and I think I want these colors because, blah, blah, blah. And then they say something which makes you think of something, which makes them think of something. And then you're like, oh, okay, I now I know what my question was, and you answered it. So thanks. Let's move on. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because often you're too close to it. Like, you think of things the way that you envision the product, like, or that with you being having that tangible product or anything, and to have those outside opinions and views. Even like sometimes they talk about with the market research of what words do people use that are going to be different than what words you use.
Right. And on that side, like, you can spend a really long, one of the biggest parts of my job when I'm crafting, like designing for a methodology. So maybe that's a questionnaire or it's a discussion guide for a focus group. One of my biggest jobs is considering all of the language and, the list, if you've written a survey, right, and you've got your question and then you start writing the list out and you're like, do I have everything on here? And wait, that's 2 items. That's 2 items in one. Those items need to be separated. You can spend a long time doing that, but all of that, teasing out all of those ideas and all of those thoughts are really valuable to just understanding your business and understanding the challenge that you're up against.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. So let's talk a little bit more about the teams that you've had with your business. So when you've grown first this market research business and now your product business, how have your teams evolved over the years?
Right. So Vireo, when I first started, like, it was me, and but within the first year, I'd actually had a serendipitous meeting. I was on a board, and I had gone to a student volunteer fair, just as one of the volunteers and board members. And a lady came up to me, and we were just chatting, and she said, my daughter is at home right now. She, I think she didn't have a job at the time, but she was like, she's just about to graduate psychology next year. And, it's like, oh, I was like, maybe I should give her a call. And partly because, the lady was nice, and I was like thinking about like, who do I want to, I'm probably going to need someone at some point. Maybe this could work. And, but also I find, psychology grads are great at market research for some obvious reasons, which is obviously their understanding of human behavior, but also because I find psychology tends to, and people can obviously argue this with me, but I find it tends to draw arty science types, which is a really sort of the person that I am. Like, I'm I'm a creative thinker, and I think in concepts, and I enjoy abstract thought, and my brain really enjoys that kind of exercise. But I'm also really analytical and can be detail oriented for the right reasons. I say that because if my bookkeeper's was to listen to this, she would be like, I disagree. But sorry, Erica, I'm trying. Anyway, I ended up meeting Emily. And so Emily started with me while she was a student and really grew into the position, so that when she finished university a year and a half later, I was able to offer her a full-time position. So that was my first hire. After that, I was really struggling with the workload, and we got really busy, like crazy busy, around about like year 2 or 3, I would say. It was intense, man. Like I still think about it now, and I was like, I don't know how I still wonder that now. Actually, is looking back on the past 6 months, I'm like, I don't know how I managed to get anything done, these kids around and all that stuff. But it was another one of those really intense time periods. And I also hired a coach at that time, I should say that. So, and the first time I talked to her, I just like cried, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get all this work done. And like, anyways, and she still wanted to work with me. So yay. But, but so there was Emily. I then brought in a coach. And after that, I brought in a partner. So then there was, at this point, a partner, and my partner and I were both working with the coach. She was kind of helping us, figure out teams, and her background was HR, actually. So she'd had a fairly, the coach wise, she'd had a fairly, like a really interesting corporate career, actually. And now she was doing, coach. But I find like HR people to just be very illuminating around tasks and manage, like they just got that right fit, that I understand there's something about the way they approach problems that really makes sense to me. And so I'm able to respond well to that background, I guess. Like more so than like, cause there's some coaches with a finance background, like
right.
That's it for me. Like, so, anyway, then after that we had another part-time person. Then my partner left after about a year and a half. It just wasn't working for a few reasons. And then maybe like 2 or 3 months after that, I got pregnant. And so, which was intentional. It was like, yay. And so it was also like, yay, but like, what am I going to do with my business? I don't have a partner. Am I going to keep running this? Like, and, so I ultimately scaled the business down, so that I let Emily, obviously Emily knew at this point, because I'm like, I'm getting fat in a very specific place, so I should probably tell you something. Like, it's like, all right, it's just awkward. And so I let her, we had, and that was again, like a really busy summer. That was the summer before I had my first daughter. Like Emily, at that point, actually, Emily had also moved to Costa Rica, because she'd said, I'm thinking about going and living somewhere else. And I'm like, that would be cool. Can you still work for me? And she was like, yes. And I'm like, great. So there you go. So she was in Costa Rica. We were landing massive projects. She was flying. Now, clients don't care where she's coming from. Like if we are traveling to Vancouver, it doesn't matter to them where she flies in from. So she'd be flying in from Costa Rica. I'd be flying in from Toronto. So that was another big summer. And then the business wound down. So although I never kind of shut up shop or anything like that. I just stopped looking for work, really. And, once when you're not at conferences anymore, you're not I wasn't actively mailing my database. I just kind of drifted away, let it drift. And, with the intention of building it back up, after my daughter was born and seeing how that would progress. But I kind of surprised myself in terms of like the amount of time I took where I was really just taking work that came to me. And it partly, my dad passed away just before my daughter was born, which is like the most massive bummer. Like, you're just like, this was like the worst timing that you could have. Right. And, so I think that was like kind of partly to do with it, although I maybe wasn't super self-aware at the time. Like, I was just like, I just need to concentrate on my baby. And I think a lot of it was like, I just need to concentrate on like one thing. Like, I can't look after a baby. I don't know. And again, like, talk about stuff that you don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't know how to look after a baby. Like, who lets you take these things home from the hospital when you're completely unqualified? And, but you both figure it out. And, but also like, it was grieving, but I also not really realizing that. And then, you sort of have this shift in your own head, right? About like, who do you want to, what kind of parent do you want to be? Right. And when I was like, oh, like, I definitely want to pick my kid up from daycare. Or me or my husband, right? Like, not necessarily me, but like, I guess we were like, we don't want a nanny. I'm not really looking for someone to be here all the time. Like, I want to do that. And so then that kind of changes the work. I didn't want to go away for like 2 or 3 weeks anymore, right? Like, I didn't want to travel during the week and come home on the weekends. Like, it was fine when it was just me and my husband, but partly I didn't want to because I didn't, sure, I wanted to spend time with my kid, but it also seemed really stressful to me. Like, the amount of organizing that it would take to be gone for a week just felt like intense. And so that was really when Vireo, and now Vireo is like back. I wouldn't say I'm working as much as I was like pre-kids, but at least 75% of that, right? And so it's projects, right? So it's busy. Sometimes there's a week downtime before something else starts. Sometimes it's like 2 or 3 overlapping, Right. But then it was with my second kid, who was the hoodie string chewer, and still is, like, she's like 3. And if you're wearing a hoodie, she'll like grab your hoodie string. So it's like, and it was, but that was partly the impetus, was like, I have this little idea. I'm not, I say this without trying to demean what I'm doing. Like, I'm not trying to change the world. Like, it's a tiny little, it's a silicone teether. Like, I just thought it was a fun idea that I could market and sell. And I think, again, people talk about like, the passion that entrepreneurs need to have. Like, I couldn't tell you I'm like, oh my God, I'm so passionate about teethers. Like, it's a teether. Like, I'm passionate about having ideas and taking them to market. Like, I'm passionate about learning what it takes to build a product business. Like, I'm passionate about the work that I have to do around it, which leads me to kind of love the little idea, right? But now, as you're talking about, like, yes, so there's one team that built up and then kind of shrank down. And now I'm at the point where I really have to build both up. I would be really busy anyway, but I have had 6 months of, like everyone, like the kids are home, like
right.
No daycare. There was, there were some daycare options here, but pretty limited. Some camps were running, but it didn't feel super safe to me. Like, everyone's got to make their own choices around that. And so, they've been here, and I can work from home. My husband can't. So again, like, what are you going to do? Like, he quits his job so that like I can sit on my, like, it doesn't make sense, right? Like, you got to kind of do what makes sense for your family. So I've been, my hours have been like, okay, I'll do a call here and I throw like 400 snacks at my kids and like put on a movie and hope that they won't interrupt. And of course they do. Like 3 minutes in, we're like, Nora threw the popcorn on the floor. I'm like, like, I appreciate the information. I will not be dealing with that right now.
Right.
Great. And so, now I'm having to catch up on stuff that should have been done, but was not a priority. Certain administrative tasks, the books, things like that. But I mean, in terms of growing the team, like I have been doing, that was like, I had a bookkeeper, and then she actually stopped doing bookkeeping this year, just last year. And so I hadn't found a replacement person. And then it was March, and now we're all at home, and I'm like, wait, I think, what, am I doing this now? Is this what happened? Like, maybe, because I don't know. So about all the years to get stuck with doing my books, this is the year I got stuck with them. And, but now I'm realizing, like, okay, you got to get that unstuck. Like, I can't be doing that. I'm not good at that. So that's my first job, is to like get that off my plate.
And I'd say that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before of, you could spend your time or you could spend your money. And sometimes it's 100% worth spending your money to save the time yourself.
Yes. Right. Yes. That's the first thing. So there'll be a bookkeeper is imminent. And then I really want to see if I can repeat the success of, Emily, really. She like feels famous, but, it was such a nice jive, like in terms of her skill set, but also the fact that like her stage and my stage. So right now I'm like, I want to find like maybe this time, it's not a psychology grad. Maybe I want like more of a marketing grad who can fit with Hoodie Chew Chew a little bit better. But someone who I can create a part-time role for right now, knowing that if I can outsource, knowing if I can outsource and some of these, like, yes, it's social media, it's kind of the technical stuff, technical pieces around driving traffic to my website, right? So, I have ideas for blog posts, and I know the tone, and we were talking about earlier, like I know what the expectation should be, and what they need to do. But, sitting down, it takes me 2 or 3 hours to write a blog post, and which I think is the appropriate amount of time. Like, if I'm doing like, I don't know, something like sometimes, you do a lighter blog post, like here's like top 5 whatevers, you can bang that out, but it's still like, you still got to find the pictures. You still have to, everything takes time. Right. And, so trying to figure out like, what does that role look like, it's sort of a priority of mine over the next couple of weeks, and see, who can I find? And, the nice thing being that I feel like I can cast the net pretty wide. Everyone's so comfortable with virtual working. Like, I'd love it to be a person I could meet in person with every so often, because I do recognize the accountability of meeting in person, and sometimes just being able to like share a moment together, like in person, and it's important to kind of the clarity of the task, or even just maybe transmitting the culture of what you're trying to build. Right. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. Anyway, I'm on that, and that's it's good timing to talk today, really, because it's sort of put it again at the forefront of my mind. Like, it's like everything is urgent right now, really. I mean, I'm heading into Q4, like it's going to be like a massive online shopping season. I don't really have time to mess around. And, and so, to your point, like I can spend time or money, but I'm out of time right now.
Right.
So
yeah. And when you run out of time, the best thing you can do is use your money to buy more time.
Right.
By hiring a team.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So we are getting close to the end, but I do have one more question about your team that I want to dig into. With running 2 businesses, when you envision your future team, do you envision team members that will help you with both, or do you plan on keeping them separate?
So this hire that I want to make, whoever that is, I think has to float between the 2 of them. And in the future, so there's another person that I want to talk to at some point, whoever that is. And that's probably more of a career coach type person. And this is where I'm going with this, is that I'll back it up a little bit. I think when you're an entrepreneur, we don't always think about the trajectory of our career, right? Like how do you evolve as a person? What are the skills that you're gaining, right? Because it's almost like, that's for someone who has a job. That trajectory comes from the experiences you have and the people you meet and the courses your boss will pay for, like those learnings, right? And from mentors within your organization. So when you're an entrepreneur, it's easy to just, you kind of get pulled, right? I learned about this category because I worked on this business. And so I want to know what my business could look like in the future if it becomes a hybrid of Vireo and Hoodie Chew Chew. And Hoodie Chew Chew is actually like, it's a product, but I've incorporated under Brightree Kids. And so there's other products that I want to work on. But I'm aware that I love new stuff. And so I'm not allowing my brain to go there right now. Like this is Hoodie Chew Chew needs to be established, focus on that. And so, my point is that there's a future business. I don't know what it is yet, but there has, for my own trajectory, as my skills become more and more unique around understanding what it takes to run an e-commerce brand, understanding how all of those pieces fit, combining with broad research strategy experience, there's something interesting there. I just don't know what it is yet. And so the person I next hire, to answer your question, will have to work on both, because I don't have the energy to like deal with one person for Vireo and one person for Hoodie Chew Chew, and someone with the right experience will be able to shift back and forth. And in the future, really who comes on and who I hire is really going to depend on where I take this hybrid of me, which is ultimately my business.
Yeah, and I like that. And I like everything that you shared about how you were growing this business, but you weren't afraid to change it based on how your life was changing. Or like now you have kind of like the two separate businesses, because that's what's important to you right now. And that you're shifting things, you're getting the support and help you need that fit what you need then. And I feel like that's so important, is when we grow our teams, we don't have to be stuck with the team that we grew if our business changes, if our needs changes. Like, yes, there's people on the other side of those jobs, but at the same time, we need to make the decisions that are right for us and right for our business.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think it wasn't, I mean, at the time it was so complicated, right? Because it's like, oh, I'm having a baby and, and so let's have an awesome summer and I'll see you in Vancouver in 2 weeks. But then, around about October time, I'm going to be doing baby stuff. So, Yeah.
All right. So as we wrap up today, how can people get in touch with you?
Oh, so through my website, Vireo Research is vireoresearch.com, and Vireo is a bird, so it's a VIREO research.com. And if you wanted to check out my product, we're hoodiechewchew.com. So that's HOODIE, chew is in chewing, CHEWCHEW. And you can reach out to me through both of those websites.
Awesome. I will definitely share all those links in the show notes so people can easily find you. All right. And our last question for today. We have all had leaders or managers that stood out to us. Think of the most impactful leader or manager you have had. And can you share with us one thing that made them stand out as a great leader to you?
Yeah, for sure. It's actually a fairly easy question for me, because I had one boss who, I don't know if she would know this, but she was easily my best boss. And so, should I say her name, or is it?
Yeah, if you want, you can.
So, her name is Ruth Corbin, and she's pretty well known in the market research industry, certainly in Canada. And at the time, she was just the best boss for my personality and my stage of career. I was at that point when I started working with her, I didn't have the experience I wanted yet, but I was so hungry to get it. And she was working, she had a small boutique agency working in intellectual property research. So we had some super fancy clients, like, big law firms. And like, I couldn't believe at the time, I think it was like 27 or 28. And I was going into these like huge boardrooms with like these super senior people. And she just took me everywhere. Like, she was like, you come to that meeting. Oh, I can't go to that meeting. You go to that meeting. And, she just put me out there, man. And I really appreciated that, because there's a point when you just need to do it and your boss needs to let you do it. Right. And so she just put me out there. But I can tell you specifically that, so one time we had a client call and she yelled at me in a very unkind way for something that was not my fault at all. And I was pretty sad about it, because like, I was young and not used to being yelled at, really. Well, not like that anyway. And she actually called the client back and fired them the next day. And she was just like, it's not a good fit for us. And also like, you can't yell at my staff. Like, she's a young person. She is not, nothing she says is to upset you or irritate you. Her only mission is to do a good job here. Like, if you met her, you would know that. Like, and so this just isn't a good fit for us. So thanks, bye. And, she said it more nicer than that, but, really, like, it's just stayed with me for such a long time, because you think like, I would fire a client who talked to me like that in a heartbeat these days. Like, I wouldn't even think of it. But there's plenty of bosses who would have told a junior person to just suck it up. And, right. And she had standards for how people treated her and standards for how people treated us.
Yeah. Yeah. And you bring up an interesting topic, because one of the podcast episodes that just recently came out, when this goes live, episode, I believe it's number 40, we actually talk about what she refers to as the brilliant jerks. So people that are really, they could be great clients, great people within the business, great producers, but they're just not the funnest people to work for. And what do you do with it? And how do you handle that? So yeah. And
I'll check it out. There you go.
Yeah. And not being afraid to fire a client when they don't mesh with your company values, your mission. It's hire the clients and work with the clients that work well for your business, not just the ones that are going to pay you money.
Right. And the truth is that would we have been able to, I never really thought about it until you said that, but would we have been able to fulfill on that project? We wouldn't have. Like, it was already going wrong for whatever reason. Like, people weren't happy, people weren't meshing, it wasn't going to be a good fit. The kind of sunk cost fallacy, like, well, we're already in it, we already have the project. It's like, no, this is never, like, this lady is yelling at junior people on the phone. This project is not going to get better, and we're not even in field, So like, I think part of it is, it was emotional for me, because for sure she stood up for me when she could have just taken the lady's money. But there's a practical sense of like, would we ever have successfully fulfilled that project? Probably not.
Probably not. Well, that brings us to the end. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was such a pleasure talking with you today and hearing so much about your business, or I should say businesses. Are you ready to build the team you need to grow your business and want to do it without it requiring all your time? Then I invite you to join the Growing Your Team membership. Let's face it, as a small business owner, you're running 1,000,000 miles an hour in your business, doing all the tasks and most likely overwhelmed by all the work. You need help, but you're not quite sure where to even start. You know you need to hire support or even a whole team if you want to keep growing your business, but relying on Google for info on how to write job descriptions, find qualified candidates, delegate with ease, or manage your team successfully
just isn't cutting it. Why can't you just figure this out on your own? Because hiring and managing a team is hard. They are big projects, big activities that require plans and accountability to happen well. However, imagine what goals you could achieve, clients and customers you could serve, and the revenue growth that could happen with the right people surrounding you in your business. That is exactly why I created the Growing Your Team membership. It's an on-demand training membership and community designed to give you the knowledge and support to hire and manage your team successfully without doing it alone or having to hire an entire agency or recruiting team to do the work for you. If you are ready to build the best team ever in order to grow your business to even greater success, if you're ready to do this alongside other inspiring and motivated entrepreneurs, if you're ready to dig in and be supported every step of the way, then we're looking forward to seeing you inside. Head on over to growingyourteam.com/membership to learn more. Come join us in the Growing Your Team membership.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Growing Your Team with your host, Jamie Van Kuyk. Be sure to subscribe and head on over to growingyourteam.com to connect, access the show notes, and discover more ways to hire and leverage your perfect fit team.